Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the information session for the Italy Summer Abroad program. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. And today, this meeting place is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So I'll start with some brief introductions. So today we have with us the three instructors from the Italy program for 2026. We have Professor Scott Wortley, who teaches the criminology course. We have Professor Richard Green, who teaches the English creative writing course, and Professor Elizabeth Legge, who teaches the fine art history course. We're also thrilled to have with us this year Ariel, who is one of our student ambassadors, and she did the Italy program last year in 2025. She took the criminology course. So we're looking forward to hearing from her a little bit later in the presentation about the student experience. And my name is Genevieve. I'm the program coordinator for the Italy program. So if you do end up doing this program, you'll be hearing a lot from me. And I have with me my colleague from the Summer Abroad office, Wendy. She will be working on the back end, helping to answer any questions that you may have and that you may be wanting to post in the Q&A. So today we will be talking about a general overview of Summer Abroad. And then, of course, we'll get to the details about the 2026 Siena program. We'll hear from our course instructors and our student ambassador. And then we'll get into costs and a little bit about financial aid, how to apply, some information about accessibility and equity, diversity, and inclusion resources, as well as next steps and what to expect in the application process. So as I mentioned, we do have a Q&A module, as you can see in your Zoom controls. So we're not using the chat for this, but we are using Q&A. So you will be able to post questions in the Q&A. And then once they are answered, either by Wendy or by myself, they will appear then in the Q&A. So keep an eye on the Q&A. Other people will be asking questions and some answers will be posted there. And then we'll also leave some of those questions to answer live because some of the questions are relevant to everyone. So we will have some Q&A at the end as well. And of course, we welcome any questions at the end that you may have about the program. And this session is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and review it. You can send it to your family, your friends. We will have a link to it on the website within a couple of days after this session, so by the end of the week. So let's start with what is Summer Abroad. So in Summer Abroad, you earn a full U of T credit, that's a Y credit, in 3 to 4 weeks during the summer. So it's not a transfer credit. Unlike an exchange where you may be taking a course at another university, this is still a U of T course. So it is structured like a U of T course, and it counts on your academic record the exact same way that an on-campus course would. So it's not a transfer credit. The grade appears, and it also can be used to fulfill program and breadth requirements as you require them. As I mentioned, the courses are taught by U of T faculty. Another thing that sets it apart from student exchanges is that you have access to on-site non-academic support as well. So we have on-site coordinators, on-site assistants there to help you with anything non-academic that comes up during the program and help you get oriented to the city and to residents, etc. We also keep class sizes very small. So in all of our programs, there's a limit of 30 students per class. And it really gives you a unique opportunity to work very closely with your professor and your colleagues. Because you are all in class just taking the one course and you're in class every day, it's a very intensive and immersive academic experience. And of course, the courses are tailored to the location. So they are designed so that you can experience what you're learning. So field trips are incorporated, all kinds of local hands-on activities are included in your learning experience. And of course, We also prepare students for the summer abroad programs. There are pre-departure orientations, as well as U of T's Safety Abroad resources, which you can take advantage of during the program and which we will definitely make you aware of ahead of the program as well as you prepare to go away. So our offices are located here at Wordsworth College, as you can see this old building behind me on St. George. But of course, our programs are open to all students of all faculties and of all 3 U of T campuses. So there's some incredible benefits to doing a summer abroad. We'll just highlight a few of them here. Academic benefits. As I mentioned, it's a very intensive and immersive academic experience because you're in class 4 days a week for 4 weeks. You're really immersed in the material and you really get to know your colleagues and your professors in a way that you wouldn't normally do if you're on campus and let's say just taking a course once a week for the whole year. And because of the small class size, you do have the opportunity to gain communication and presentation skills as well, which sometimes in larger classes, you don't have those opportunities come to you so often. Personal development, this is something we hear from our students after the program when they are filling out their surveys. We hear so much about how they gain lifelong friends. They met people that they never would have met on campus. They gained independence, confidence. For some students, it may be their first time traveling. It may be their first time living away from home. So it's a really great opportunity to explore that independence, meet new people, but also have the support from Summer Abroad along the way. And finally, professional benefits. So definitely building your network. Our professors always tell us that they get many requests for reference letters from students who they've worked with in summer abroad, largely because they get to know the students so well, and you will get to know your professors really well also. Also, some students look at it as a way to explore opportunities for graduate school or for new career directions. Just living in a new country and studying in that kind of environment can really inspire you to maybe even take a different direction academically or to pursue your own goals even further. So about eligibility, we'll talk about the minimum eligibility requirements. So you do have to be in good academic standing. So if you are currently on probation or suspension, you would not be able to apply for this year for summer abroad. Once you are back in good academic standing, then you're eligible to apply. You also have to have a CGPA of at least 1.75 at the time of application, and that's a minimum cutoff point. And first year students, even if you have no final grades on ACORN yet, if you have completed your first term of study, you can also apply. And sometimes courses will have a prerequisite posted, but most of the summer abroad courses are open to students who may currently be in first year as long as they meet any stated prerequisites. So we ask you to check the course descriptions, which are posted on our website, and that will let you know specific eligibility for specific courses. Students from other North American universities can also participate. So sometimes you may have a friend who's at another university like Guelph or Western, and they might want to come and do the program with you as well. Or they could be from, like I said, any North American university. They can apply as a visiting student on a letter of permission from their home institution. So certainly if you are interested in having a friend apply, or if you are currently at another university, just reach out to us and we will help you apply as a visiting student. So now specifically to the Italy program. So it takes place in the month of August, August 1st to August 29th. That's 4 full weeks in Siena. And you'll be living in Siena, which is a beautiful medieval town in Tuscany. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's just a couple of pictures of it here on the slide, but I encourage you to look into it, Google it, look at some images, read up on it. It's an incredible city to be studying in for 4 weeks. And it's hosted by the University of Siena, which dates back to 1240. And we have been working with the University of Siena since 1972. So we've had over 50 years of connection with University of Siena. Over 5,000, probably more like 6,000 students have participated over the years in the program. And as I mentioned, so the courses include field trips, and it really gets you outside of the classroom and taking advantage of all the sites and museums and places that you can see while you're studying your course material. One of the photos there is of the historic Palio di Siena. So we're lucky that our program coincides with this incredible and unique event. Again, something to look up. If you just Google Palio di Siena, you'll see incredible videos and photos of the event. It's a historic horse race that actually takes place in the town center. There's all kinds of rivalries and pageantry involved. It's really a great cultural thing to participate in. And people are really happy that they were able to witness it firsthand. So that's sort of a festival that will take place on one main day during the program. It always takes place in mid-August in Italy, and there's also events leading up to it as well that you can partake in. So classes in this program are from Monday through Thursday from 9 to 12. So you are in class every day, and attendance is mandatory. That is something definitely to highlight. Unlike on-campus courses, you have to be in class every day and attendance will be taken. Of course, if you are sick, you can arrange to get a doctor's note and some documentation to show why you missed the class. But attendance is mandatory, and this is largely because it is so condensed. So missing even 1 day or 2 days is missing a lot of course material. So we encourage everyone and we require everyone to be in class every day. So your accommodations at the University of Siena, there are a few pictures here, and I've got a couple more on the following slides. You are in the University of Siena residences. These are the residences that students stay in during the rest of the year, and in the summer, they are able to open them up to our students. All the rooms are double rooms, so do be prepared to have a roommate and live in a very communal environment. Washrooms are usually shared by 2 rooms. And there's also some shared common kitchen areas, so you can do some light meal prep, maybe store some food. But it is a very shared and very communal living experience. So definitely some of the differences to highlight is that sometimes Wi-Fi is unreliable. One thing that students often, even though they know ahead of time, they really feel shocked that there is no air conditioning. So it can get very hot in residence. And that's something to think about when you're thinking about whether this program is for you. That's something that if that's going to make you very uncomfortable, then you might want to look at a different program where they do have more modern facilities and things like air conditioning. The buildings are on the older side, so don't be expecting a residence like you may have in Toronto. But that's part of the experience. You are living the way Italian students do. You're living in the old buildings, and we just hope that students will be adaptable and willing to accept that there are a lot of differences to experience. So there is no meal plan in this program, as I mentioned. There are local student cafeterias, which our on-site staff will direct you to. They will show you where you can buy affordable meals, some groceries. There are a lot of nearby restaurants. So we say to budget at least $1,200 for meals. If you feel like you would like to go out for dinner a lot more or spend a lot more on meals, then of course that would be more for you. But this is the minimum that we ask students to budget. And here are some photos of the residence. They really are beautiful buildings with beautiful views. They're just older than what you might have in Toronto, and sometimes students are not quite prepared for that. There's some more pictures. And if you have any questions about the residence, we're so lucky to have Ariel with us today. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A and she can address them a little bit later in the presentation. So some of the program activities that you can expect in the first couple of days. When you arrive, you'll have a walking tour of Siena. There will be residence orientations, welcome get-togethers, a contrada dinner, as well as the on-site academic orientation, which is mandatory. And some other activities. There is a Siena welcome reception, as well as an optional Italian language tutorial that you can participate in. And these activities all take place in the couple of days before classes start. So classes will start on the Monday, but this is why we want you to arrive on the Saturday so that you can participate in all the orientations and tours. There will also be optional activities that our on-site coordinator will be putting together during the program. And this is based on interest, how many students will show interest in these things. So he will communicate by the listserv some ideas that for activities, and then it'll depend on how many students want to participate. But things in the past that he has put together were a trip to Verona to see an opera, as well as things like cooking classes, horseback riding, and other activities. So those will be organized on site. So for getting to Italy, there is no group flight, so we don't book a group flight for students. However, we do have a recommended flight. So once you're admitted to the program, part of your post-admission materials is we send you a recommended flight, and it's usually a direct flight from Toronto to Rome, departing the day before the program starts. So we will send you that recommended flight. And then we find that probably about half of the students will book themselves onto that flight. It's a great way to be able to meet students ahead of time or to meet your colleagues ahead of time in Toronto. But if you don't want to take that flight, or if you're not flying from Toronto, that's fine. You can make your own flight arrangements. And you can also arrange to meet our group in Rome at the airport for the bus transfer that we arrange. So the bus transfer is based on the timing of the recommended flight and when that flight is coming in. If your flight arrives before ours does, then you are welcome to join the group for the bus transfer to Siena. And we'll have information on signing up for that in the post-admission steps. Other ways to connect in terms of traveling with other students in the program is quite early on, after admissions and after everyone has paid their deposit, we ask a student to volunteer to create their own social media group for everyone, and then I send the link out to all the students. It's not monitored by Summer Abroad. It's purely for students to connect ahead of time. So you will have that opportunity as well. We also will be having a meet and greet in May, where you can come and meet other students in person in your program, as well as an online pre-departure orientation in June. And that's when you'll be meeting the on-site staff online. There'll be a lot more information about exactly what to bring, what to pack, what is provided at the residence. All of that will be provided for you at the pre-departure orientation and beforehand in the online student guide, which you will have access to as well. Now, in terms of visas and insurance, so students are responsible for arranging their own visa if necessary. So Canadian citizens should check the Government of Canada website for the entry requirements to Italy. And international students, you should check with the Italian embassy or the Italian consulate in Toronto to make sure that you meet the entrance requirements. So if you do require a visa, we do provide supporting documentation after you're admitted to the program and after you've paid your deposit. So you can request that visa letter from us, and that will help you to support your visa application. With the Italian consulate in Toronto in particular, in past years, we've been able to arrange group appointments in April for our students, which was really convenient because I know a lot of students might leave Toronto in April. The Italian consulate is very familiar with our programs and with U of T. So we hope that we will be able to have that arrangement again this year. So we'll provide information on that in your post-acceptance steps. And then, of course, I also email updates to students as I hear from the consulate, and we will start booking group appointments, hopefully. Now, if we don't get group appointments this year, you can make your own independent appointment, and we will still provide you the supporting documentation for your own visa appointment. And another thing to highlight is since you are purchasing your own flight, you may want to look into cancellation insurance for your flight, just in case your plans change, and also to review terms and conditions of your travel health insurance. And we will provide more information on that as well once you're admitted to the program. and we will give you instructions on how to look into the travel coverage that you may already have through U of T. So a couple of new things in 2026. So there is a new system called EES. And this is an automated registration system for travelers from all countries outside the European Union. There's nothing you need to do ahead of time for EES. It just means when you arrive, you'll be required to register through this system at the border of any EU country. So it's nothing that you need to worry about ahead of time. It's just a heads up that you will be registering when you enter the EU. So later in 2026, the European Union was planning on the European Travel Information and Authorization System. We keep monitoring it. So far, they haven't rolled it out yet for the summer, but you can check that website, the etias.com website, for any updates. But again, last I said, it hasn't been launched yet for this summer. And all that is an electronic travel authority, which all travelers will have to apply for online ahead of time. But like I said, that's something to look into for probably future years. All right, so we're ready now to move on to our instructors who will talk a little bit about their courses and about their experience in Italy. So first off, we have Professor Scott Wortley, the professor for the criminology course. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about your course?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Scott Wortley. I'm a professor and director at the Center for Criminology and Sociolegal Studies at the University of Toronto. And I've been teaching my course on current issues in international criminology for about 10 years now. I think I've had 7 trips where I've delivered the course. So um, I know a lot about Siena. I know a lot about the student experience. And during the Q&A, feel free to ask me any questions or contact me independently through the center if you want to have a phone conversation or email communication. A lot of the details of the course have been given to you already, then they're provided in this outline here. The course takes place from 9 to 12 each day. It's a seminar format, so we really do try to encourage a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. We cover a large number of topics that are really relevant to the issues of international criminology. We start the course with a discussion of cross-national comparisons, not only in crime rates, but also how crime and justice issues are measured, which can kind of complicate comparisons across the globe. We are in Italy, so we do have a little bit of a focus on the mafia and the growth of international organized crime. We also focus on issues of human migration and the relationship between immigration and crime, which has been a very hot topic in North America. If you've ever heard a Donald Trump speech or what's happening in the United States with respect to ICE right now, but it's also a growing and very explosive issue within the European Union. So we do talk about the myths and realities of the relationship between immigration and crime. Um, and then we also look at a variety of other issues, including youth radicalization, homegrown terrorism, and street gangs. We look at human trafficking and the refugee crisis in various areas of the world. We look at the issue of drug prohibition and its relationship between organized crime and the cartels, for instance. We look at hate crime and the rise of right-wing nationalism, which has often been linked to the myth of the relationship between immigration and crime. We look at corporate crime within the global economy and how different that is from issues of street violence, which dominate the media coverage of these issues. Finally, we also look at international trends in crime prevention, including policing and punishment. The teaching largely consists of short lectures, followed by seminar discussions, films, student presentations, debates, and various film presentations, and our field trips, which I'll talk about in a minute. Um, we have one short reaction paper that you have to write based on one of the topics. So, each day of the course will have a specific topic and required readings. You have to write one reaction paper based on those readings with 10% of your grade. There's a major book report assignment. The book reports or the books that you can access and use for your book report will be provided in May. So you have lots of head time if you want to get your book report done before you go to Italy so that you have more time to enjoy the Italian experience rather than sitting in your dorm writing a paper. There are two tests, one midterm test and one on the final day of the class, and 15% with respect to your participation in the course. Field trips. We have a variety of field trips planned for 2026. We have a two-night trip to Rome, which is actually the birthplace of criminology, including many of the early theorists, including Lombroso and Beccaria. Um, we'll talk about the origins. We're trying to get a tour of the Criminology Museum, which has started in Rome. But we also plan field trips to various sites of criminological importance, including the Roman Forum, which saw the birth of the modern court system that we see today, as well as the Colosseum, which was famous for spectacles of punishment. And we talk about how this ancient history has formed um, our modern criminal justice system and the way that we view and think about crime. We also take a fascinating night tour of Rome, where we learn about both ancient and contemporary criminal events that have helped shape Italian society. We have another 2-day trip to Florence, where we also will tour some of the famous areas of Florence that are related to crime and criminal justice, including the famous Uffizi Gallery, one of the world's greatest art galleries, where we explore themes and art of crime and justice. We also, again, in Florence, take a famous tour of both ancient and contemporary criminal events and discuss their implications, including a famous Florentine serial killer who was responsible for a large number of murders in the 1970s, but also go back and look at some of the ancient rivalries that have formed both Florentine and Italian history. We also have a tour of some of the famous wineries in the Tuscany region where Siena is located. It's a little bit of a stretch to try to explain why we go these, but we use this as an opportunity to talk about the relationship between um, alcohol, drugs, and criminality. We also talk about the role that Italy played in American prohibition with the rise of organized crime at a time that alcohol was actually an illegal drug in the United States. We will also be visiting on one day the Italian Sienese police, where we get to meet and have a question and answer period with the chief of police. We visit the forensics unit within the police and also an immigration center, which is processing recent arrivals and refugees within the Italian context. We end that day with a wonderful lunch at a restaurant in the valley, which is actually used to rehabilitate inmates who have recently been released from Italian correctional centers. And finally, um, we're trying to organize it again, but in past years, we've been able to have a wonderful dinner experience at a prison in Italy, Volterra Prison. You can search online and find some films about Volterra Prison. We were unable to go last year due to some insurgencies that took place within the prison and some associated bureaucratic issues, but we're hoping to get back on track, which is one of the wonderful experiences. I've got to say, I highly recommend this program. It's a highlight of my teaching career, partially because of the relationships that you get to form with the students. You know, you take courses at U of T and you often, large classes, you meet once a week, you hardly get any interaction with the professor and the other students. This is a completely different experience. I've formed lifelong relationships with many of the students who have taken my courses in Italy. I have three current PhD students who I met for the first time in Italy, and another five current MA students. Um, Also, many of the students who take these courses develop an interest in criminology and have moved on to programs in the United States, in Europe, and elsewhere in Canada to pursue MAs and PhDs. You do form a lifelong relationship, and I really want to, on my final note, I hope I haven't talked too long. Basically, say that Siena is magical. I've been bringing my kids there. I have a 15-year-old daughter who will be 16, and my son is 9. They've been coming since they were little. And every year, kids of that age want to go back and can't wait to get back to Siena. I think that should tell you something about the magical quality of the city and the experience that you have. So thank you, and I'm out.
Great, thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions about this course or as we go on about the other courses, feel free to put them in the Q&A as well. Great, thank you. So we'll move on now to Richard Green. Richard, do you want to talk a little bit about your course? And you've got some slides, so let me know as you want me to move the slides.
There we go.
All right, great.
Yeah, user error is the story of my life. I just want to take up where Professor Wortley finished about the magical quality of Siena, and like the other professors on this course on this program, I've been involved with the Summer Abroad program for quite a while, both in the Oxford program first, and then this program. And I'm going to tell you, this one's better. Shh. I see Genevieve getting uncomfortable in her chair. No, this is a really nice program, as is the Oxford program, both beautiful. I choose this one. I vote with my feet. And it's what are we going to be about? It's a creative writing course, and professional writers often go to great trouble and great expense to go on writing retreats outside of their own countries. So, the idea of going to Italy for a month just to write is something professional writers are desperate to do. They go to Scotland, they go to France, they go all over, and so to do this as a university course is a great possibility. Now, what are we trying to do? If you're a creative writer, we're trying to put you in places where you'll discover new ways and new things to write about. We're going to do a couple of things. One is we're going to look at craft. I'm going to try to assist you in learning editorial techniques, construction of different kinds of works, of poems, of narratives, of fiction, a personal memoir, that sort of thing. And we're going to, at the same time, try to inspire you by taking you to places you're not accustomed to. And in that engagement with things you don't know, that in those moments of recognition, hopefully new projects will get started or old ones will be given new life. Our course description is there, and I'll take you back to that in emails in advance of the course, just to send you reminders. The main one that I would give you right now is, if you're coming, get the one novel we're looking at in the course called The English Patient by the Canadian author Michael Ondaatje, and read it. It'll save you a whole lot of time, and that will be the head start you want. The other small tip is get on Duolingo, pick up at least a few words of Italian and make your work a little easier. So yeah, let's have a look at some of these slides here and talk about them. Our first field trip, which will occur quite early in the course, is to Rome. And I want to take you guys to a number of famous sites, but within the sites, there are so many details. Just flashing up a picture of a thing like, this central area in Rome that includes the Forum and many other things, doesn't quite get it. We're looking at, the heart of ancient Rome, same place Julius Caesar got stabbed, where forms of government were developed, where architecture was extraordinary. And so this is just one. We'll also go see the Colosseum, and we will go to the Vatican, and again, a great monument of Renaissance architecture. It is that. It's also it contains an extraordinary art gallery. The Vatican galleries are as good as it gets. And one of the things we'll be looking at in the course is a thing called ekphrastic poetry or ekphrastic writing. Now, what's that? That's a big word. What it boils down to is writing that focuses on a work of art, of architecture, or even of music. And in going to these galleries, want to challenge you to that kind of creativity. So that will be our first. Then we will actually go to Florence again early in the course, I think the beginning of the second week, something like that. And the main goal of that field trip will be an engagement with works of art at the Uffizi Gallery, another of the world's greatest galleries. We're looking at Leonardo's Annunciation. Now, I'm not an art historian. Professor Leger is the pro on this, but as writers, you can be charged up. You can discover things that you want to write about, and I'm going to be, in my way, kind of teasing you to do that. This will be, to my mind, one of the offbeat but most interesting things we do in the course, and I hope it gets your interest too. You've probably heard of Francis of Assisi, the great medieval saint, now a kind of a patron figure for the ecological movement. And he lived a very poor life in the area of Assisi, which is not that far from Siena. And when he died, an extraordinary pair of basilicas were built, great churches, actually one on top of the other. So you have a lower basilica and an upper basilica, and it's a rare feat of architecture. And at the same time, it has some extraordinary frescoes by people like Giotto and that. And if you look at this photograph, you'll notice all those arches. The first time I saw those arches, I almost had a heart attack. I had rarely in my life seen anything so beautiful. I hope you share my enthusiasm. I get excited about stuff. It's not a good quality in a professor. But the Summer Abroad program kindly puts up with me. Am I getting a smile there? I think I am, yeah. We will also be going to Venice, and part of what we will look at there will be the great Palazzo and St. Mark's Square. But we'll just be prowling around and having a look at the place. I want to diversify some of our sense of the past by visiting the Jewish ghetto in Venice, so that we get an awareness that Italian life and culture isn't, as they say, monologic. There's not just one voice, that everything is white, Catholic, that kind of thing. Um, and also, probably in relation to the Venice portion of the trip, I'll be talking about uh, the migration crisis, which Professor Wortley has already referred to, because I don't want this trip solely to be about an Italy that doesn't exist anymore. The established culture of Italy is in transition, and partly owing to uh, worldwide patterns of migration, people forced to move from impoverished or war-torn areas, and making a new life somewhere. How does that relate to Italy as it has been and whatever it will become? And again, so that is to diversify the picture of Italy. And we will go to, and this is the one that the students last year thought was the best field trip. I didn't expect it. I thought it was just an experiment, see if they like this. We were led by an extraordinary tour guide who shows up on PBS and everything. She's the main tour guide there, and I've been pestering our manager, Nini Di Pietro, to secure her services again. Her name is Annie Adair, and she took us to see a Roman theater and a particular place where in the Second World War uh, uh, people defended an archway by piling stones in it. But anyway, a very powerful experience. And just a quick look at our evaluation. We'll have two small tests, and they'll be relatively early in the course so that you know how we are supposed to do that, to give some early feedback, some early grading so you can make a decision. Very, very few people would choose to drop the course unless there was some hardship involved, but that is always there as an option. There'll be a 20% class participation element. And just to remind you that this course will be largely workshop. So at least once, and hopefully more, during the course, you will present some of your own writing, and we will have a broad discussion of that. And it's actually quite a gentle process, and I coach people on how to approach it. And I'll also be asking you to keep a journal with a certain word count through the course. And at the end, I'll ask you to submit a portfolio of revised work, and that will all add up to 100%. Again, I would ask you to get a head start on the English patient. That'll make your life a lot easier. And one last thought, and I'll disappear, is that because it's a workshop, because you're living in residence, and because you're going on adventures with people, this is an occasion to make friends. If you're a shy person and that puts you off, don't worry about it. It'll grow on you. It's an experience that leaves people with lifelong friends and a good experience of learning and creativity.
Great, thank you so much. All
Thank
right,
you.
and now we're moving on to Professor Elizabeth Leger, who will talk about her FAH course.
Hello, everybody. I have to come clean at the start. My name is actually Leg. And in Italy, I'm Legge, which means law. In France, I'm Leger. I accept any name, but happily. I just have one of those kinds of names. I'm really happy to be talking to you. As Geneviève knows, I've been teaching this course off and on. Well, you don't know that, of course, because you haven't been here that long, but off and on for 20 years. And it has been a joy every single time. And what my colleagues have said, I try not to repeat it, is all true. Siena is an enchanting place. We try to present you with opportunities to see dazzling and historically important things. But in my course, also, I really try to encourage you to observe everyday life, to observe cultural features of life. How do people communicate with one another? Um, we tend to look at other cultures as stereotypes, but thoughtful observation is also a form of learning yourself how to manage in another culture. Now, I'm mentioning this because one of the course assignments, I'm trying to remember my syllabus. I think one of our course assignments is writing a daily journal. It can be brief, but it's your own observations. You can put in little sketches, but just things you've seen. I have found students' journals quite wonderful and revealing. Although, if you really want to talk about your boyfriend, I'm game for that too. That's okay. um, the assignments are basically a preliminary assignment because, as I think it was Professor Wortley said, you don't want to be stuck in Siena writing an essay. So there is an essay due at the beginning of the course that you can research here, where you have all the resources to look things up and so on. And it's asking you to choose an object of Italian design, okay? Because what got me interested in this topic in the first place was that Italy has been cutting edge of design for a long, long time, modern design and architecture. And yet I became aware, teaching art history, for example, in our department, that when we talked about modernity or modern art, we talked about France and the United States primarily, Canada on a good day. And I thought, it's interesting because so much has happened in Italy in the 20th century. Let's talk about that too. Modernism in Italy is particularly interesting subject because it's tied into political structures. It's tied in from the 1920s on to a system of government, fascism, that valued and historical heritage at the time, that wanted to look back to reconstruct the greatness of ancient Rome, but in a modern vocabulary. And that is just one of the tensions that comes up in art history. I'm briefly going to tell you some of the places we go to be concrete and not take a lot of your time. We go to a collection that has been established by I assume, wealthy Italian industrialist. No? Geneviève, can we go back to the first one?
Okay.
Just for a sec. There we go. That's okay. This is a landscape, people. This is just there, so you know the kind of views you see every day in every way. You never get used to it. We go to a collection set up by an industrialist. He had a huge estate. It's a very beautiful estate because it's been landscaped so that there are different areas. There are olive groves. There is an English style woodland and forest walk. The garden itself is a work of art. And we walk around, it's the Gori collection, for a few hours, looking at major works of 20th century modernist sculpture that were commissioned to be specific to the location. So we find art in the woods, we find it out in the olive groves, and so on. There is a guide who takes us through. Last time I was there, it was Stefania Gori, the daughter of the man who set it all up. Absolutely charming and welcoming. And I think it's a very important trip. It's a bit of a magical mystery tour. It was originally set up because the curator of the Gorey collection was Canadian, still is Canadian, although she's lived in Italy forever. Wonderful opportunity. We go around to the different Tuscan hill towns in the province of Siena. Siena has a historical rivalry with Florence, so we stick to the Tuscan hill towns, where there's been a program of commissioning and installing contemporary works of art. And you get these extraordinary collisions, once again, of past and present in these beautiful medieval towns overlooking beautiful valleys. And then you find a really extraordinary and usually very thoughtful work of contemporary art installed that is in dialogue with the surroundings. We go, amongst other hill towns, to San Gimignano, a legendary hill town of many, many tall towers. We go to Rome. We certainly have a walking tour of Rome to orient you that goes from the old Jewish ghetto and the site from which a number of Roman Jews were deported under the fascist government to meet their deaths, naturally. There's history embedded everywhere. That's a more 20th century history, but we go from the ghetto to the great Baroque splendor of the Piazza Navona, for example. Other than the walking tour, we're going to go out to one of the masterpieces of fascist town planning. It was EUR, EUR was designed to be an exhibition site showcasing fascism. And it was never finished because the fascists in Italy were defeated in the war. But it is a whole, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a city of white marble palaces, but that are at the same time modern. And it's a really interesting test case of modernism in Italy. We also go, on the other hand, one of our tours takes us from a museum housing really spectacular ancient Roman altar up to one of the great little gems of Renaissance and Baroque art, the Borghese Gallery. We walk around the Borghese Gardens. Last year, kids took off and enjoyed the paddle boats as well as the cafes in the Borghese Gardens before we went into the actual museum. In Venice, it is again rich with modern collections. We'll go to the Guggenheim, Peggy Guggenheim's collection in her charming little palazzo. And we also go and look at the collections of a French collector of all the most important contemporary art, Francois Pinault. He has converted an old customs house in Venice into a modern art gallery. And if we have time, we'll cross the Grand Canal in one of the little gondolas that are used as taxis. So you can have a gondola ride for a couple of euros. Only lasts a few minutes, but it gives you the experience. And here's Venice. I took this picture a few years ago. Venice is the site of the Venice Biennale, the great art exhibition that happens every 2 years. That is another option for visiting in Venice. Countries from all over the world have pavilions in Venice, and they install the art that they think is important, reflecting their nations. This is by Jeff Koons. It's one of his famous balloon dogs. I took this some years ago. It was outside the Palazzo Grassi, surveying the Grand Canal. And I was inspired by this to actually write a whole article about Jeff Koons' balloon dog, but I can talk to you about that another time. This is Venice. Where this was taken is a wonderful pizzeria floating in the water that we go to for dinner in Venice. Normally, you can sit there and look out at the water and see a beautiful sunset. Here, the students were all having spritzes, but you're technically not allowed to have alcohol. So I'm going to tell you it was orange Kool-Aid. Sorry, Genevieve, it was before the edict about alcohol happened. They're allowed to have a drink if they pay for it, right?
Right. It's just not part of like U of T
Yeah.
will purchase it as part of a field trip.
Right. And also, I will
they're all
keep.
adults and on their own free time.
Yeah, that's right. So I did want to say, though, the last slide, the last time we went there for dinner, there was a huge yacht blocking our view of the water. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Really, that's usually a great place to see a sunset and feel that you're in Venice." And then all these people started going into the yacht, including Oprah Winfrey. And then the students started to come up to me and say that they'd seen Angelina Jolie in the street and other famous people. And I thought they were all hallucinating. But of course, we were there at the same time as the beginning of the Venice Film Festival. I can't promise you celebrities, but Venice itself is a bit of a celebrity. These pictures show installations by important international contemporary artists as they crop up in the hill towns. This happened to be Antony Gormley. We were walking on the left, we were walking down to a medieval well, and, and this little figure was just standing in a field. So there is a sense of a scavenger hunt, or as I said, a magical mystery tour that you're wandering around and encountering contemporary art. On the right in San Gimignano was another Antony Gormley that they perched right on top of a tower. So you have to keep your eyes peeled to see the contemporary art. Obviously, I will talk to you about the contemporary art, but one of our big discussions is how does contemporary and modern art answer to the ancient fabric and extraordinary ancient history of Italy? How has Italy set up those dialogues? And here is one of my favorite places to visit. We walked through the countryside a bit down into a valley, surrounded by trees, is this 14th century well. There is music piped in all around it that I'm not going to describe to you. So if you come, you can be enchanted by it yourself. And you can also discover why all these students were looking with such rapt attention into the water. What is in there? The assignments are meant to show you, here are students in the Gordy collection encountering modern works of art. The assignments, other than the journal and the preliminary essay about Italian design, I ask you to write responses, back one, please, don't you? Responses to works of art you've seen, taking into account the situation in which you find them. So again, there is a writing component to the course, teaching you how to look very, very carefully at things and think about how you actually experience them, and think about how the way you approach them and where they're located affects them. And I guess the last one is the next one, Geneviève.
Let's see.
Is there another? Yeah. This is the great Roman altar I told you about. It's this massive structure you can walk into. It's not only a monument to the glories of ancient Rome, but it also was part of the fascist political history of Italy, because one of the things the fascist dictator Mussolini wanted was to see himself as a new Roman emperor, recreating the Roman Empire. And he had all the fragments of this altar that were all over the place, including in the Vatican collections, donated so they could reconstruct this great monument that I'll talk about. And then Eur, the exhibition, the city I told you, the white marble city that Mussolini had built. This is a famous building. It used to be called the Palace of Labor, but you can see here perfectly the dialogue between the ancient and the modern of fascist modernism of the 20th century. The nude hero, the horse, and what is called the square Colosseum, an allusion to Roman architecture, but made modern by being made into a cube. There we go. Okay. I didn't assign a journal, but we can talk about that. There we go. Essay. Yes, the essay you do in advance is worth 35%. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Of course, you can send me questions by email.
Great, thank you. And yeah, feel free to put questions in the Q&A as well. I know, Elizabeth, you might have to leave.
Yeah.
We're already at the hour. But yeah, definitely, you can even reach out to Summer Abroad and I can put you in touch with
Thanks
Professor.
so much. Yes, and don't hesitate to be in touch. And goodbye, Geneviève. Goodbye, colleagues.
Bye,
Goodbye,
thank you.
students. Bye.
All right, so we'll carry on with a few more things that we want to cover today. So normally our on-site coordinator is here. You may have mentioned some profs, or you may have heard some of our profs mentioning Nini or Vincenzo. He runs the program on site. He organizes all of the trips. He knows everyone in Siena, and he is really the coordinator who you'll have a lot of interaction with, and he puts together wonderful activities. He's also in charge of the on-site assistants who work with him for support. So he unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. He likes to talk about his role in the program, but he's actually traveling right now, so he was not able to make it. But he's available to students. He has regular office hours. He's also an emergency contact 24 hours if anything serious occurs, serious illness or injury or anything like that. You always have Nini, and you also have his 3 assistants in residence with you. So a lot of on-site support during the program. And now I'll hand it over to Ariel. So Ariel did the program last year, and she's now one of our student ambassadors. So we're thrilled to have you here, Ariel. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in the program?
Sure, yes. Can you hear me first?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi everyone, I'm Ariel. So I'm a second year student studying political science and history. And in August, I participated in Professor Wortley's criminology course. And I kind of like chose this course because I've always kind of been interested in criminology and global studies. I'm like a very avid traveler, so summer abroad was the perfect opportunity for me to combine my passions both academically and be able to have kind of that independence in studying and traveling abroad by myself. And like Genevieve and a lot of the, as you've heard from like the professors about summer abroad, this course really helps me be able to kind of jumpstart the rest of my academic career with being able to just within like 3 to 4 weeks time take a full 1.0 credit at U of T. And additionally being able to like learn in a small classroom environment with like my peers through like discussions and like our lectures really helped me facilitate even more conversation and kind of like spark my interest further than what I would be able to experience at U of T on campus in like a really, really big lecture hall. Additionally, I think one of my biggest highlights was the field trips that Professor Worley did mention earlier. Some of my favorites were going to the winery. That was really, really fun for me. And then additionally, the immigration and police center. Those are super fun. And then also being able to visit nearby cities like Rome, Florence, and even me and some of like the friends that I made, we took like a little bus all the way to Pisa. It's always been like on my bucket list to kind of see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So that was super cool to be able to check that off my bucket list and see in person. And additionally, being able to also witness the very, very famous Palio in August, right in like kind of where we're centered for our accommodation too. That was super, super incredible experience as well. In terms of academics, I would say I felt this course was really manageable, being able to have like 3 hours of lecture, just Monday through Thursday, and then having kind of the afternoon to explore restaurants, museums, and then still having time, like ample time to be able to work on assignments, readings, and all that. So I felt like the whole course kind of was very manageable. I know it's a lot of students worry like, oh, is summer abroad something I can manage? I kind of want to have that fun time and go out with friends, but still be able to do well in a course for my transcript. So I would definitely say that this is the perfect opportunity to balance both, and it's like the best of both worlds. So overall, I would really recommend this course, any of the courses actually in Italy and any of the other ones if you go on our website and see any other courses that are interested for you. It may not be something that you're majoring in or minoring in, but it could be a course that you could fulfill for your breadth requirements. There's so many new courses and new destinations that we offer this year, so I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. And that's all. So let me know if you have any additional questions I can answer in the Q&A function.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. And definitely, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and we'll talk about them after as well. All right, so we're going to get down to some of the information which you can find on our website. So this is a screenshot of one of the pages as part of the Italy section of our website. So you can find the costs outlined here. And it also gives you the application deadline and the remaining fee payment deadline. So just to summarize, on the right here, that graphic is what you'll see on the website. And just to explain a little bit how that makes sense. So the top fees are fees that are paid to Summer Abroad. There's also a fee that is paid on Acorn when we add the course for you in April. And then there's additional costs which are variable because they are not paid by U of T. Those are things that are paid by yourself. So just to break it down, for instance, if you're a domestic student, your fees paid to Summer Abroad is $7,550. That includes your course fee, which covers your tuition for that course. Field trip fees are all included, as well as your accommodation for the whole 4 weeks of the program. And then there will be the incidental fee on Acorn. Last year it was $216.28. It can vary depending on whether you are taking other courses, and also some colleges have a different fee structure, but that's your incidental fee, which you'll pay on Acorn, and then estimated costs, which are what we suggested you budget for meals, which is variable, as well as your flight, which you would purchase on your own, and that can be variable as well. Now, if you look at the financial aid tab on our website, there's a lot of information there about how to cover those costs of the program. So this is the page where you will find resources from Summer Abroad, as well as a list of additional awards that you can apply for, as well as an information session, which should be posted shortly, that our director did recently about how to finance your summer abroad. And the whole webinar is about funding. So please visit that page and be sure to watch that webinar as well. So just to summarize a couple of things, the final payment will be due on April 22nd. The Summer Abroad Awards can range between $1,300 and $6,000, depending on the award. So you apply for Summer Abroad Awards at the same time as you are applying to the Summer Abroad program. So it's very streamlined. It's all within the same application. You don't have to fill out a separate application. The only information you need to upload there is if you are on OSAP, we would ask for your OSAP documentation as part of your expenses review. So if you're a U of T student, you have to have completed at least 4 full credits already. So that means if you are currently in first year, you would likely not be eligible for the Summer Abroad Awards. But if you're in second year or higher, then you would be eligible based on that number of credits. There is a minimum CGPA of 2.25 for the Summer Abroad Awards. Again, that doesn't necessarily guarantee an award, but that would be the minimum. And it does not cover the full cost of the program, as you can see. So the awards committee is the one that allots the different awards based on your application and based on the awards available. And that's why there's a range between $1,300 to $6,000, depending on which Summer Abroad award you have been awarded. And just to highlight a few other awards and bursaries that we highly recommend that you look into. So the Center for International Experience, or CIE, has something called the IE Plus Awards. And these are often awarded to our students. One thing to note about them is that they only release the funds once you are already in the program, roughly halfway through the program. So it's good for on-site expenses, but it will not come in time for that final payment deadline of April 22nd. Same with OSAP. So if you're currently on OSAP, you can apply for the summer extension. It usually grants roughly $4,000 per week for the duration of the program. So you'd be looking at maybe around $1,500 or so from OSAP. Again, they only release the funds at the start of the program. And you're not able to defer your summer abroad fees. So it's great for on-site expenses, and it's something you should also look into. We also recommend that you check with your registrar's office, your college registrar's office, for other possible awards. Many of the colleges do offer travel and international experience bursaries. I can think of Victoria College, for example, as well as UTSC. So check with your college. have a quick meeting with your financial aid advisor and find out if there are any awards that they may have that you can apply for. So applications are now open. Our deadline is February 4th, and that's at 4 p.m. And it's a good idea not to wait until the deadline date to submit your application. Submit it a few days before, because you will also have to do an online recorded interview, which I'll just discuss in a minute. And you do that after you submit your online application. So even though the deadline is February 4th, try to get it in a couple of days ahead of time. There is a $210 non-refundable application fee. And you can also now select a second choice program as part of your application. So we will ask you, if you don't get into the Italy program, would you want to be considered for another program? And you can either put in a second choice, or you can just leave no second choice and just have Italy as your one application. This is just a screenshot of what the application looks like, just to quickly show you that you want to make sure that all of these tabs have been filled in and that they have a green check mark, and that way you know that you have gone through and you've filled in all of the right steps. And then once you pay your application fee, you then have to go back into your application and click submit. And once you've done that final step of clicking submit, then you know that we have received your application. So for the assessment, it's not first come, first serve. So there's no advantage to getting it in super early. Work on your application, make it the best application that you can. We look at academic suitability. We also pay a lot of attention to your personal statement, which is where you can sort of say why you're a great candidate for this program, how it fits into your personal and academic goals. And one thing to note about that is we're not looking for a perfect but very generic kind of statement. We really want it to be genuine. We want to hear why you want to take the course. And the more specific you can be in that about your own personal experience, your own ambitions in taking the course, the better for your application. So as I mentioned, there's also recorded interview questions. This you do on your own time, 24/7. It's all online. It's not live with a person. But you'll be sent a link after you submit your program application and your application fee. You will receive a link to what's called the Kira interview platform. And it basically asks you a few interview questions. These are very general questions about adaptability, about experience. So we ask you to talk about different experiences you may have had in your life and how they would apply to the Italy program. And there's also a very brief written part of the recorded session. So as I mentioned, the details and link are sent to you once you have clicked apply. And remember, there are also some how-to videos on our website. So when you go to the apply page on our website, look through. Our student ambassadors have put together some how-to videos on how to actually complete your application. So admission decisions will be sent out by email in early March. We do the admissions based on when the program is. So you may have friends who applied for another program and they may have gotten their email. Yours will be going out in early March. And at that time, you have 1 week to confirm your participation by paying a non-refundable $1,000 deposit. So in that notification email, you'd either be notified that you've been admitted to the program, or that you're on the waiting list, or that you have not been admitted this year. If you applied for summer abroad bursaries, you will also hear about the bursary decision on the same day in a separate email. As I mentioned, remaining fees are due April 22nd, and there will also be quite a few post-acceptance steps that we ask you to complete, and you will be given instruction on that. And we have a pre-departure orientation in June, which we highly recommend that you attend. It will also be online. And finally, the online student guide. That'll be provided to you after admission, and you will get a lot more information there about things like what to bring and what facilities you'll have access to, as well as how to meet the group at the airport and details about the flight as well. And before we wrap things up, I just wanted to point out some new resources that we have on our website. So the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility page has a lot of information and resources for all of our students. We want to encourage everyone to apply for summer abroad. So no matter what your student community, there are resources there available that we'd encourage you to check out. There are also site-specific resources, so there will be information specifically on Italy, as different countries can vary in many ways. So we encourage you to look at those resources on the website. They have been put together by our EDIA program coordinator. So we have a staff who is specifically involved with equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. So if you have any questions about anything that you find on the website or about accessibility needs that you may have in Siena, please do reach out to our program coordinator for EDI. And finally, if you are registered with accessibility services, or if you do require accommodations on site, you do need to register first with your campus's accessibility service office. And each campus has their own accessibility service office. And then we would ask you to upload a letter of accommodation within 7 days of being admitted to the Summer Abroad program. So at the same time that you're paying your deposit and accepting your spot, you will also upload your letter of accommodation. And that's so that we can put plans in place to make sure that we are able to meet your needs. So the range of accommodations does differ from country to country, and we cannot guarantee that sites will be able to offer you all of the accommodations that are available to you at U of T. So that's why we ask you to reach out if you do have specific accommodations and discuss it with us, and hopefully we can figure out if it's the right program for you or make recommendations for accommodations that you may require when you're on site. And we also have an EDIA Summer Abroad Award. This you would apply for at the same time that you are applying for the other Summer Abroad Awards. So you can specify that you want to apply for the Summer Abroad EDIA Award as well. And this is for students who have made recent contributions to the advancement of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And on our website, we have the bios of some of the previous winners, which are really interesting. So definitely check that out as well if you are interested in applying for the EDI award. And that pretty much wraps up the presentation. One last thing to say is to definitely check out our Instagram. We have incredible content there from our social media assistants who work throughout the summer to post things, as well as students who have done the program and post photos and videos. So definitely follow us on Instagram. And some other ways to get in touch. As you know, visit our website, attend more information sessions. We have a lot of them coming up, and you can find them listed on the events page. We have a newsletter that you can sign up for, and feel free to reach out either by email or by making an appointment. You can always make an appointment with me, or you can reach me by email as well if you have any questions at all about your application. I don't see any right now. So I think we'll wrap up the session. So thank you so much to Professors Wortley and Green for joining us today. And of course, Professor Legg, who had to leave. Thank you for talking about your courses. Thank you so much, Ariel, for joining us and telling us about your experience. And Wendy for dropping all those links in the chat and answering the questions. So thank you, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out. We're happy to hear from you or to meet with you if you have any questions at all about the program. So thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.